Hello and welcome to Drive Facebook Live. I'm Dan Vasquez, and with me today I have my good friend Bill Ascolillo, and also my co-host for today. Say hi, Bill.
Hi, Bill. Good afternoon, Dan. How's it going?
Hey, doing great, doing great. And today with us we also have Larry Monroe, and Larry Monroe is one of our longtime Drive instructors. Has been a coach, and we're going to talk to Larry today a little bit about our action coaching workshops. Hi, Larry. Can you say hi to everybody?
Hey, everybody. I think I've probably talked to most of you at least once, if not 25 times, but glad to see you here.
Larry, it's so good to have you on the show today. I was wondering if you could just start off by kind of introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about yourself, and then maybe give us a little bit of an idea about what exactly these action coaching workshops are that we offer.
All right. Well, I'll try to keep this story as short as possible. I actually was one of the first coaches hired back in 1994, and Bob Spitz, most of you know him. He and I were side by side. So we had the Midwestern part of the country represented me. I'm from Missouri originally, and he was from Long Island, and we had some interesting conversations about people from different parts of the country. And I have pretty much done everything from being a coach to being a manager, or being a coach trainer. I was quality assurance manager for a while, and I've delivered workshops for 32 years. So, and I love doing it. And now I'm the primary speaker or delivery person for the action coaching workshops, which are a unique method of delivery that's, anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour on specific topics. And we found it very, very useful to train up quickly shop owners when they came on the program with the nuggets of knowledge they need for immediate survival, but then also key employees that needed that training as well, from the service advisors, estimators to lead technicians. So it's been very, very useful.
Oh wow, yeah, that's awesome, Larry. I mean, it's really great to be able to have just a taste of a workshop and some good training in an hour or less, and that's super valuable, especially to people who are just starting with the program and are maybe still, really just stuck in their workshops, either working on cars or writing service, or a lot of times both. So, and then would you say that these action coaching workshops? We also have master workshops, right? Which are anywhere between 3 and 6 days. So these action coaching workshops, would you say that they're kind of a good start and kind of a taste of what the master workshops can be?
That's exactly what they are. It gives them some basics that they can apply immediately. I'm talking about as soon as they turn off the show, they can actually start applying it in the front or the back, because many of them need that. They need the help uh, right away. And I promote the master workshops because these give key data, but they do not replace the master workshops. However, when somebody's starting on the program, you got to give them small bites. You can't give them too much information. And this industry is unique in terms of it's based on its ability to apply and do and get a result. And that's how these workshops are designed. They're similar to what happens in a shop. The vehicle comes in, they start working on it. This is the same way. And it gives them enough basic tools to start handling many of the common pain points, which the clients come in with is money, time, stress, and oh my gosh, my hair's on fire. So, all of those. And
Whatever happens.
Yeah,
yeah.
right, right.
And I've been doing this for so long, I got a lot of stories, and I try to keep it very, very light. They're already serious enough. They don't need to be more serious. So I try to get them laughing at themselves while they're learning what they need to do for their shop.
That's awesome. That's great to hear, Larry. Just real quick, a couple of our favorites. We got Dave Jenner. John is tuned in and watching, so hello to Dave. And then we've also got Anthony Stone of Honest Auto, who's also watching. Well, listen, Bill, what do you want to know about action coaching workshops? What would you ask Larry?
Well, it's interesting. Thanks for that. Larry, I would love for you to explain to somebody. Let's pretend you were speaking to somebody who had never done an action coaching workshop at all, ever. And they know they need to get involved. But some guys can be a little intimidated. And could you explain to somebody what to expect, what it feels like, how it all goes, in what they can expect out of it, and you know the whole structure of it all, if you will, for the person who's never been in one before.
Well, it's one of the things I have learned over the years is how to get people engaged and ask questions, find out what they want to know from their shop on the topic we're discussing. I make it very, very safe for them to bring anything up. As a matter of fact, I'm saying that right at the beginning and even throughout the workshop. Ask questions, give me feedback. If you are thinking something, somebody else over here is thinking the same thing. And I basically tell them, we get more out of this workshop the more engagement we have. And I'm very, very interested in somebody that says, well, I don't know how you can apply that to my shop. Good. Let's talk about it. How many techs you got? How many service advisors you got? I dive into it. It's very free form depending on who I have in front of me. And sometimes I have 2 people, sometimes I have 12 people. And there is no question that I usually can't field. And because of all the experience I've had talking to shop owners for all these years, and you got to be careful because you get me started on stories and all of a sudden the workshop becomes 2 hours long. But, the shop does not have to be serious. It can be upbeat. It can be positive. And one of the things I try to do, gathering it from shop owners, is keep it current, because you guys know this industry has been changing. Drive has been doing this for 33 years, and I've been here for 32 years. And there was no internet and very few computers when I started. There's a lot of faxes and phones, and you have to stay current. And so I learn from my students, from my attendees. I'm always curious about something. Oh, I found out this great thing about how to charge labor for higher mileage vehicles. And I go, wow, that's really good. I update, I have notes that I keep whenever I do a workshop, and I update some of this vital feedback I get. So it's very much of a learning experience. And I love hearing some of the things that people have figured out that others haven't.
Oh,
That's so
that's
good.
great. That's
Yeah.
great. It's interesting too because a lot of people out there know that I'm a coach, and obviously, I have a bunch of shops. And I will say that whenever I get feedback, I'm speaking to my clients, hey, how'd it go? And they always say 2 things about you, which is a compliment, obviously. Like, he always makes it feel comfortable and he's always engaging. Because the reason why I asked my question is because people are like, well, I got to do a classroom. Classroom, like, a lot of people don't like,
Oh,
going into a classroom. And with some people, it's been a little while since you were in a classroom. Like, you know what I mean? So, some guys just don't want to do that. And a lot of them will say, well, I don't do well in classrooms. And I'll say, it's not like that. It's more like a round table. And especially the feel that you give people, it's conversational. It's a group conversation, if you will, and it really puts people at ease. And then you must notice that, probably in the first 5 minutes, people are kind of like not opened up, and then you start talking the way you do and the way you handle things, and people relax, and then it just starts flowing. I imagine that's what you run into, correct?
yeah. As a matter of fact, I stay away from the C word. I don't call it a classroom, because they start breaking out in a sweat, or the cameras turn off, if they dive off camera. It's a
Do like
lot
a
of,
combat roll out of the camera, right?
well, it's interesting because this culture, this industry, a lot of them went to classrooms or school, and they're extremely bright. I actually saw an article several years ago about different kinds of intelligence, and some of them become millionaires because they have this certain kind of intelligence. Being in a classroom, reading from books, or some of those scary teachers we had in grade school that used to throw whiz pointers over our heads. Uh, it's not that way. And we learned early on, we're calling them workshops because we work and we discuss, and it's like sitting around a table with cups of coffee and saying, what are you running into? Oh man, I had this one customer that this is the kind of stories we want because I have data, but it makes more sense. It's more real when it's involved with life on the front lines of a repair shop.
If you don't mind me asking, just because you've been doing it for so long, I think you know what, for the duration of this Drive Facebook Live, we'll refer to him as the GOAT. Okay. He's been doing it a
I
long
think that's
time.
As long
appropriate.
as
Yes,
as
it's
as long
appropriate.
as people define goat, because I've heard people using it,
No,
and
no,
I
it
had
means
to
greatest of
Google the
all
damn
time.
thing.
It
I don't
means
want to be
greatest of
called a
all time.
goat. I know I'm an old man
Um,
and I got gray whiskers, but come on.
I imagine, I would love to know, out of the common threads that you see, new people coming into the program, exactly like what we talked about a few minutes ago. New people, their hair on fire, they don't know which direction to go in. I don't know what to do. What are probably 2 or 3 of the most common issues that you see when people come in, like, I need X fixed, this is not working. What is this? Like,
I only get to choose from two. I mean,
200.
so,
Yeah.
I meant to say
and
200.
I'm
I'm so
gonna
sorry. I meant to say
and
200.
I have a couple, and I'm gonna warn Dan that I'm gonna use him in one of
Okay,
my
that's
examples because
fair.
I used to get him
Dan's
all
like,
the
why did I
time.
say yes to
All
today?
right, so
I
one of
think our
them
internet's
is,
cutting out.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, what
Meeting's
happened?
over?
Yeah, he's muted. They always have certain, it's kind of like a default setting in running a shop. Most of them have never had a business. They were technicians. Some were salesmen, but most of them were technicians. So one of the things they always talk about, I need more cars. I need more cars. And they're not used to looking at their KPIs. They're not used to thinking with their numbers. And so that's one of the first things. I go, okay, let's look at your graphs. All right, so what does your number of repair orders say? Well, it says 50. Okay, good. And you said the sales are down. Yeah, okay. Now it's important you look and you compare. What did you do? How many cars did you have last week? Well, I had 50. Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
cars is that's not the thing. Well, no. Well, let's look at a couple of other those graphs. Can you see any other ones that are down? Well, average ticket went down about $200. That's right. So do you need more cars? Well, no. So we need to dig in and find out why your average ticket amount is down. This is the beauty of your KPIs. It's very much like a scan tool. The car comes in, it's making a noise. You go, okay, you're thinking in sequences. There's 3 or 4 different things that could cause that noise. Let's get out the scan tool. And that's what I try to do. I try to take their experience and wisdom and intelligence as diagnosticians on cars and switch it over to numbers and realize it's not more cars. Sometimes it's, well, I need more build hours. These guys are not very efficient. I don't know what the problem is. That's the other one.
Mhm.
All right. Okay. So let me show you. I want to actually, I'm going to show you a couple things. Look at your build hours graph and look at your average repair order graph. What do you see about it? Well, they kind of look the same. That's right. Why do you think that is? So I don't have any idea. That's why I'm here. I'm on this workshop to read my KPIs. Ah,
Why do I feel like you're quoting Dan right now? I can feel this.
well, no, he has a specialty that I'm going to get into. But see, I was also a medic when I was in the Army, and I worked in surgery. So I know how to do first aid on clients in my workshop, you know, stop the bleeding. I said, look, your average ticket amount and your build hours go up and down. Why? Because it's easier to fix more, do more build hours on less cars. And then there's a reason why, and it's usually your inspection line. Simplest thing. Those are the most common things where they default to build hours, more cars. No, let's get more efficient. And it will be easier for your techs. It will be easier for everybody because instead of selling $400 per car, we're selling $650 per car. And it's more profitable and everybody's happy. So that's one thing. Now, the other thing is the attitude of the owner.
What? This
Now,
Dan's
the
officially
funny thing
last time
about
on
it
the
is,
show.
the funny thing about it is, they come on and they're kind of grumpy. And they say, well, I don't know. These guys they're not efficient. I don't know exactly what the deal is, but I need to fix it. And I went, okay. So, there's a workshop I want you to sign up for. It's coming up. It's called Adopting a Winning Attitude. And, which by the way is next week. Um, let me give you an example. Car comes in and it's not running right. Well, do you walk up to the car? It's just running really bad and yell at the car and then fix it? No. What do? Well, I get out my tools. I start running some tests. And I said, okay. So here's the deal. It doesn't work very well with your crew as well. Growling at them or grimacing at them does not help them get more efficient, sell more, fix more. They're just like another machine. You have to debug it. So, there was a gentleman several years ago that was a little grumpy, especially in regards to one of his technicians who happened to be his son. And
It's funny. Dan just has this look about him. I don't know what it is. I can't
Who
quite put my
could this
finger
guy
on it.
be? Who could he be?
I don't understand it.
Yeah. And, I just kept it light. And this was Dan, and he came to many of my workshops and he started using the tools that he was learning. And, he realized that, being grumpy didn't actually improve production, and it actually was not really good for his blood pressure. And, Dan, tell me about, what your shop is like in terms of the culture and the atmosphere now versus a few years ago.
Yeah, I'd love to. So, well, thanks, Larry. So, starting out with Drive, right? So, for those of you who don't know, I'm a client of Drive. I own a shop in Northern California, and I'm also an instructor for Drive as well now. So, back early on, young and not knowing much, you signed up with a consulting company wanting to improve your situation, and I thought, well, here's all these workshops I can take. They're about an hour long, and Larry was teaching most of them at the time, and so I got to really know Larry. And it's funny how somebody can look through the camera into your eyes and figure you out, and that's a talent that I think only Larry has. But very quickly, it wasn't a bad attitude, but more of a I'm in control kind of attitude. And Larry very quickly says, listen, you got to learn to trust people, especially your own family, and your shop's going to be much better off for it. But luckily, I was, impressionable and enough to listen to his advice and take his advice. And at the time, because I didn't want to let go of control, I was there every single day. And now I'm at my shop about a day a week. So that's the difference. And the shop is just as profitable, actually more profitable than back then, thanks to, the whole drive staff and Larry especially. And then you fast forward to, a few years later, Larry's teaching me how to teach others. He was the one that Tony handed me over to and said, Larry's going to teach you how to do this. So how lucky am I to have been able to learn, from the great Larry Monroe. So thanks, Larry.
Well, I haven't heard anybody call me great in a long time, so I'm going to take the recording and play it for my sons just to
Yeah, there
remind
you
them
go.
that
Yeah, we
they
need
need to
proof
give
that
dad,
happened, right?
they
Yeah.
need to give dad more respect.
Hey,
Larry, you had mentioned that the adopting a winning attitude, it was next week. Correct me if I'm wrong, shouldn't that be 12:30 PST, Pacific Standard Time on Monday?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, so that's going to be very interesting class for people who are kind of run into those roadblocks, I believe. And like you said, it's think about it. It's a top-down effect, you know. It may be a blood pressure effect. Who's to say, right? Who's to say?
well,
But again,
that's
Dan
actually,
had this look.
yeah, that's actually, speaking of changes in the industry. I'm always looking up things on the internet and books and things like that. And there was this funny article from Fortune magazine about when COVID ended and they were trying to get all of their employees to come back into the office, and they didn't want to. And these experts, we're talking about, you got to be more forceful, and they were pounding on the desk, that kind of thing. And it was just kind of, because we do not teach that. We teach an upbeat, positive culture, even though we're working on cars and we use wrenches and hammers. And this was just a couple of years ago. And they came up with an article. It's a book called, I think it's called Winning with Kindness. And they talk about how a business of any kind gets better when there's a certain high level of kindness and communication and care between the managers and the owners and the team. And I downloaded the book. It's actually a pretty good read. You can get it from Amazon. It was funny. It was kind of like a Homer Simpson moment. Like, Doe, you mean being kind to people gets them to do more work? What a concept.
What a concept, right? Exactly. Who'd have
So
thought?
yeah. And so I'm always paying attention to things like that, and I weave it into workshops like, adopting a winning attitude and some of these other things, because the industry is changing. It's improving. It's much more, it's much more women friendly. It's much more, the shops actually look more like dentist's office than that old standard station around the corner from when I was a kid, with a guy with a greasy red rag in his back pocket and a cigar in his mouth. And, he used to scare you when you were jumping on that little hose to make the bell ring,
Yep.
but
They almost look like dungeons.
yeah. And
It really did. Yeah.
the industry has changed, and some people are not quite up to that. And that's another part of what we try to do with Drive, is open their eyes. And especially if it's second or third generation, there's some old habits that they haven't gotten rid of. And, I just try to educate them, saying, look, it's 2026, after we're going into the second quarter. There's some things you probably need to change, and we'll start with that smile on your face, or the lack thereof.
Hey, not to interrupt, but I know we've got a few announcements. Bill, would you mind taking us into our station break real quick?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Next week, we are going to be showcasing Deanna Cole, and she is going to be on there talking about how she has helped Bobby Rogers grow from where he's gone to where he is today. The two of them are both their shops. Deanna Cole, as everyone well knows, she's an instructor. She's an owner, very similar to your situation, and she's been helping Bobby Rogers along with his shop, and it's been working out fantastic. So we'll be hearing from those two. It'll be with Tony and yourself. We'll be co-hosting the show. So that'll be very, very interesting. Also, next week is going to be August 29th, 10:30 Pacific Standard Time is going to be the Will and Phil show that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. And what it is going to be a webinar, and they're going to be going over some exciting products that are working for marketing. You know, funny how Larry was talking about car count. You know, that's what we all need. So we're gonna go over, those two guys are gonna go over all that sort of thing and the things that have been working out for them in some of the new products. And then finally, of course, let's not forget about how it's getting another week closer to the expo. We're gonna be in at the Wingate again, just like last year in Las Vegas. It's gonna be September 24th through the 26th. I read recently that there's 3 new presentations that are going on. So it's going to be exciting to see what those are going to be. When you go to the Drive website, there'll be a sub-tab for the expo. You can start to see how that's starting to build out. You can register for the rooms, you know, book all your flight stuff and all that kind of thing through there. And then, of course, you can always see the QR code that's on the screens with us right now. So all that's going to be real exciting. It's going to be fun next week.
Cool.
That's awesome, Bill. Thanks so much for giving us all
Sure.
that information. So yeah, but you know, back to Larry and the action coaching workshops. I mean, I'm having a great time, even though I'm getting picked on a little bit. It kind of takes me right back to being, you know, a client and being in those workshops again.
Yeah, it's reaching for his blood pressure
Yeah,
medication
yeah,
again. I thought he didn't need this anymore. No.
You know, but you know, seriously, you know, there's people in this world and people in this organization who make a difference with shop owners and with people, and Larry is one of those people who's making a difference. You know, by paying attention, and I know that that skill is something that's acquired. It doesn't come overnight, you know, and so so Larry, I mean, definitely you made a big impact on myself and my shop. Is there anybody else that you can think of, or any other, maybe even just workshops in particular that you feel have been really impactful to your students?
Well, you know, there's a couple of key ones that I've kind of I tell people that they should kind of repeat because they don't get it always the first time. Number one is the inspection workshop, and it's some videos that just shows you the correct way to do inspections in general, because that is one of the first launching points to getting a shop more efficient and more profitable. It's very simple stuff, and I remember back in the day, that was one of the first things I had people do. Didn't require a whole lot of, you know, understanding apps or anything like that. It's just okay, and it's either paper or the new digital. Either way, it's a real powerful workshop, and it's very easy to apply. The other one is the workflow. Just making sure you have a good workflow, which is the front and the back, and really making sure you have connections. That is the key to the overall success. And the third one is pricing, because what I have found is shop owners are giving their talent away. And one of the biggest challenges is all the worry they have about pricing. They are their own worst enemy. You know, the joke that I make all the time, I says, you want to make more money? Fire the owner off the front counter, because he's giving it away and he's all freaked out about Crazy Joe down the road and what he's charging for oil changes or whatever. And they should step away so they can be the owner. But those 3 things are just key. And then eventually learning their KPIs, and the sooner they can start taking master classes, especially on finance, the better. Now, you might need a punch card on taking these finance courses, so you can take them 5 different times, so you drill them into your head. But Mike Lee, one of the founders of Drive, back in the day, used to say the finance hat was probably the most important one for an owner. And we have an amazing gal that delivers those. She's quite brilliant in her own right. She's got her own shop Colorado, Chris. And when you get to that point, and I'm the launching pad for that, but I want people to go to the master workshops. I will give you as much as I can. I have some very good courses on pricing and workflow and inspections, but eventually you need to be signing up for the big dogs, especially the finance workshops.
Yeah, yeah, very well said. I fully agree. And you can really get a great head start on the finance with Larry within the action coaching workshops, which is something that I did myself years ago when I was getting started. Well, look, guys, I can't believe it, but as usual, the time has flown by. I feel like
It
I could
always
spend
goes by
another,
so
yeah,
fast.
yeah.
Oh
I,
gosh.
I feel like we could talk for another hour, but we're down to our last few seconds. So thanks so much, Larry, for being on the show. Bill, any final words or anything from you before
Yeah,
we
definitely.
wrap this up?
Thank you, Larry, so much for coming on. It's always a treat talk with you, and you learn so much. Real quick, I just wanted to reiterate on something. Wednesday's webinar with Will and Phil on the 29th is actually at 10 o'clock, not 10:30. Other than that, nope. Thank you so much, everyone.
I have one
Awesome.
last thing.
Please go ahead.
My joy comes from offering tools. And when I hear people taking those tools and their shop takes off, I know I've done my job. That's why I'm here. That's why the old man continues kicking, because I love helping small business owners and repair shops. So, come to my workshops. I'll give you a hand up.
Wonderful, Larry. Well said. Thank you again. Thanks everybody for tuning into the show. We're going to be back next Friday at the same time and place. We can't wait to see you all next week.